All righty. Good tidings we bring to you and all your kings here on this Wednesday night. The band's still going. The band's still playing. Great stuff, boys. Their new album out this fall, which I guess is now. You can go get that wherever you buy music, and you can get great handicapping advice from this plethora of minds we have presented to you here on In the Money Media for this roundtable discussion of the FanDuel Championships as well as the Fall Final Four. I won't burn myself at both ends too much tonight. I can lean on many other brighter minds, such as the man to my right, Mr. Mike Pribozie. Mike, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I got some mail today. Sugar Doyle sent me this Ontario Sire Stakes hat. And then I got this from the Meadowlands from the Twitter contest this past weekend. So how about this? I mean, this was a great day.
Now, we should note that that's only a picture. He did not, in fact, win ownership of the horse. That went to whoever bought her at Harrisburg. That's Heaven Hanover. To the right, then, a man who's Canadian, among many Canadians joining us, Reid Jr. I suggest, Rob, you maybe get more names to add to that.
Yeah, well, I probably should. We're really proud of my family too. My dad's Robert, I'm Robert, and my son's Robert. So we're really creative in my family. But no, always humbled to be here with this esteemed group of handicappers. Thanks for having me, as always.
And we'd like to welcome from the Meadowlands herself. You see her on the desk in the paddock. You see her on Fox TV. You see her anytime you turn on a television. Her face is now starting to show up there as Jessica Otten. Thank you for popping in here, Jess.
Thank you for having me. I am not the most great with technology, so it took me a minute to get in here, but I'm super excited to talk about the Fall Final Fours and the FanDuel Championships. And Mike, that was me who sent you that picture.
Love it. I'm so happy to have it.
I forgot to mention Jess, a master of the mailroom herself as well. Another man whose face will not disappear from my eyes, and that's partially because I dream about him at night, Mr. John Rallis, associate editor from Trot Magazine, among WEG commentator, who will also be joining Jess on TV at the Meadowlands this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thanks to the Meadowlands team for bringing me on aboard this weekend. I'm really excited for it, actually. To get this opportunity. It's a big night. Excited to work alongside Jess, Shades, and Dave Little. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm just happy to be there in person. Thanks a lot, guys.
And finally, a man who was able to get great Wi-Fi from the winner's circle at Harris Hoosier Park by the looks of it. Garnet Barnsdale battling through his fifth cold of the season already. You might get a record by the end of it all.
I might. I should maybe join Rallis. He looks like he's sitting in a church. Are you in a church pew there, John?
No, I'm not in a church. I'm in my room.
Okay. I was going to say some prayers. Maybe I get better. But, yeah, that's a picture of Confederate winning the Breeders' Crown taken by my son.
I'd say that you being in the foreground is probably more important than that horse, who we'll talk about much later on the show. Plenty of stakes action to talk about here and loads of interesting races, even some of these shorter field ones, which kick off the discussion for us tonight. We have back-to-back stakes on Saturday, November 25th at the Meadowlands Racetrack in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Races 4 through 11, also featuring a 20-cent pick 8. 15% takeout on that wager for those who want to try and knock the winner in every single one of these stakes events. First, most mare pacers in the FanDuel Championship. 5 of them going to post in this race. And first things first, I'm going to talk to my homie Mike, who and I go way back. We see short fields like this often, Mike, and as gamblers, sometimes we think, I don't want to touch that. But with these FanDuel Championships, we pin some of these 3-year-olds against older horses. So we get a horse like Twin B Joe Fresh against Max Contract. Some people would say a race like that could be a coin flip, and maybe you could find some value. What are your thoughts on that?
I do. The short fields are tough. I mean, it's not what we're looking for, right? We want big fields. We want more possibilities, more action. But but the best horse should win this race. There should be no excuses. And so you get 5 horses. We're going to see how good Twinbee Joe Fresh matches up with Max Contract. And Max Contract has been kind of taking a seat since that Breeders' Crown final where she was an easy winner, I thought. There was no doubt she was winning that race. She's won 4 straight now. I think she wins this race. It doesn't really matter to me that she's sat all this time. I think she's the best horse. I think some of the other horses in there really like Racing Bell, Michaela. I don't see them winning the race. I think it's Max Contract or Twinbee Joe Fresh. Who, can Twinbee Joe Fresh step up? Can she show that speed maybe that she had earlier this season and maybe get to jump in the race? I'm not crazy about her in the race. I don't think that she can maybe step up and face older. She's had a long year, 16 starts. She does like to win, but when she's faced with the Sylvia Hanovers and when she's faced with some of those top ones, she tends to maybe come up on the short end, and I think she'll have that problem this time. I like Max Contract in the race.
At the same time, though, Jess, we look to the FanDuel Championships, which at one point were the TVG Championships as well, and we've seen many 3-year-olds go and tackle the older horses. I'm not sure if Captain Treacherous was involved in that at the time, if the races were involved there, but either way, I think to like last year, for example, Nikki Hill, Treacherous Dragon, both faced the older mares. They weren't able to win, but still held their own. So kind of just talk about what do you think of Twinbee Joe Fresh in a battle like this, and also just these 3-year-olds going against older horses in a race like this?
Well, also a couple of years ago, Peaky Sneaky was in with Kissin' in the Sand, and she finished, I think, either second or third behind Kissin' in the Sand. It was a really good effort. I actually was at qualifiers this Saturday just so I could watch a few of these 3-year-olds qualify back after having a week off after the Breeders' Crown. And when I was standing there watching it, I wasn't quite sure what Twinbee Joe Fresh was going to do. She kind of looked like she was lagging a bit, but I think that was exactly what Dexter wanted, and a mile worked into her, because when she was at the Matron, I thought it was a really good bounce back effort. It's not like she raced horrible a couple of those other starts, but I think she really enjoys the Meadowlands. I think she likes being home in New Jersey, and from a horseman standpoint, I know that fillies tend to like their own atmosphere a lot better. So you see a lot of horses when they come back to Jersey, really, find their groove again. And Nancy said it a couple weeks ago with Caviar Bell when she got back to Jersey. She was healthier, and she just acted more herself when she was in her home environment. So I would take a shot with Twinbee Joe Fresh in here.
Twinbee Joe Fresh, of course, Mike was touching on it. Max Contract, possibly her main threat. The second choice on the morning line in this race at 8-5. Twinbee Joe Fresh, I believe the only 3-year-old in these races that earns morning line favoritism. Garnet, a man who has been following Max Contract for so long. I'm curious, for one, do you land on her here? And for two, are you kind of annoyed that she's not going to be that 10-1, 12-1 you're always trying to chase her at?
Yeah, and I really couldn't take 3-2 in the Breeders' Crown. And, I'm going to disagree a little bit with Mike here. I think she got a super good trip in that race. I don't think by the time they hit the 3/4, the top of the stretch, she could not win with the trip she got. That being said, she's won 4 in a row, 5 of her last 6. She's terrific right now. And yeah, I made a couple of really big scores on her in her 2- and 3-year-old seasons, but I like Michaela a little bit in this race. It's a short field. I think, if you look back to the Breeders' Crown elimination, she set the pace, right, and was caught late by Max Contract. But I think she sits, and she's got a really big kick. And if she can get on second over cover, turning for home, I don't understand how Twinbee Joe Fresh can be the morning line favorite in this race. I think that's a little bit off. I would think Max Contract should be, but I'm going to probably be a lone wolf here trying to beat them both with Michaela.
Michaela is certainly one of the more interesting horses in this race, just if we're trying to figure out how the race sets up. Because, John, in short fields like this, sometimes it's the most important handicapping thing is to figure out who's going to the lead. A horse like Michaela has shown she has the speed, but she's not really the strongest on the lead. She's shown an affinity for following a horse off a helmet, and then a horse like Twinbee Joe Fresh to the inside, who is the best horse in the race, quote unquote, we think would probably want to go and sit forward. So in a short field like this, John, how do you kind of map horses on what positions they might try and get into?
I think you can also think of it from the standpoint that nobody can really get into trouble in a 5-horse field, right? So I don't even think Dexter's going to really require the lead with this filly. I kind of disagree in the sense that I think she should be the morning line favorite in this race. I think she's the most talented horse in this field here. I know she's a 3-year-old, but she's basically, kind of transitioning into her aged career, right? I mean, it's late into the season. I think that she's been dynamite. I think that this isn't the most. I think this isn't the deepest group of open mares that we're seeing in this field, right? Unfortunately, we see the likes of Prohibition Legal and Silver Label scratched out of this event. Unfortunately, I think that really would have added to the depth of this field. But I mean, I think somebody's going to need to cut this mile, and I don't see why Dexter should cut this mile, right? I mean, we saw her get beat in the elimination, getting out sprinted in the lane, right? I think this filly's so much better off a target. I think we saw it at Dover. It was a slow first over grind, but Dexter was able to pull away from the field. He was Twinbee Joe Fresh was rather. And in that qualifier, I mean, you could see her in the lane, right? I mean, Jess was talking about how she was there for the qualifiers, and she's right. Dexter was, kind of measuring himself out. And when the top of the lane came, I mean, Dex gave her a couple reminders and she responded really well. I think that in a short field, he's going to have a target and in the stretch drive. I think she's going to be awfully tough to fend off.
I'll kind of pose to you, Rob, the same question I posed to Mike, aside from Barnsdale, who is going lone wolf with Michaela and probably get paid if that does pay off. A race where we have Twinbee Joe Fresh, Max Contract as the main standouts on paper. I know a lot of times you say sometimes you just go for the better price of the two, but would you say that there's a case to be made where maybe you should just lean on one more than the other?
Well, I am. So yeah, there is a case to do that.
Ooh.
And if anyone that reads the Horse Players Journal, if you watch me anywhere I'm on the broadcast, probably know what I'm going to say right now. John Rallis certainly knows it because we debate this all the time about the age factor. And I will side with Max Contract over Twinbee Joe Fresh, mostly because of that. Yeah, she's 3. Twinbee Joe Fresh turning 4, but that just means Max Contract's 4 turning 5. That age maturity to me is too much to overcome. Maybe that'll change later on in the card when we talk about the final dash for me. But at the end of the day, it's Max Contract for me. And to be perfectly honest, I think Michaela chops it out. And that's who I'm going to be using underneath Max Contract or probably boxing the two of them, because that's the only way you can really bet the race is if you end up going against either Twinbee Joe Fresh or Max Contract. For me, I'm going to be firmly with Max Contract, and I will always lean on that age factor. And that's not to take away the fact Max Contract's been racing fantastic as well. But again, 2 horses with stellar paper. I'm going to side with the one that has the maturity edge, and Max Contract's already proven that she can win off a similar time frame, and I think she does it again. But again, using that one with Michaela and the exotics.
Before we move on to the next race, I want to touch on my thoughts, more specifically, that I feel like one horse we're forgetting in the conversation, especially when it comes to exotics and such, is Racine Belle, one where we look back to many of these free-for-all mare events, and time again, she's there at 20-1, 50-1, sometimes 6-1.
Doesn't she have to get the front in the race? Doesn't she have to get the front?
Well, from the pylon post, she certainly can leave. And I feel if anything, she's going to be one of those horses that just tries to get the position and get the best check possible. And in a short field like this, she's the longest shot in the morning line. If she's the longest shot in the board, I feel that using a horse like her underneath is probably the only way I could put money on the race. But that's also because I feel like Twinbee Joe Fresh, more likely than not, gets to the winner's circle. Unless Dexter, for some reason, gets away 5th in the field of 5, in which case I think there's going to be a little bit of sweat on the backs of the bettors. But I envision Twinbee Joe Fresh trying to at least get forward. And to that point, it's going to be a question of if she has it in her to outsprint everybody. Because Max Contract, I imagine, is going to have to come from off the speed or come first up, luck into a helmet, maybe follow Twinbee Joe Fresh. And either way, make that last quarter of a mile for a 5-horse field way more interesting than many other 5-horse fields have materialized in other races. The 5th race is the next stake we'll talk about, but first I want to shout out absolutely everybody. Actually, I can't do everybody because that might take as long as this show is supposed to be. Who's watching tonight? Loads of interaction in the comments from Anthony DiFrancesco, Moira Fanning, JD Varnell, Mark Anderson, loads of people tuning in on Facebook. I imagine more on YouTube and Twitter and other spheres where comments may or may not pop into my eyes. I'm glad that you all could join us here on this holiday evening. For this handicapping discussion that continues with the 5th race, first of the fall Final Four, we're going to talk about the fall Final Four, specifically stakes events for the 2-year-olds, the babies, the freshmen, those growing up, getting ready to become sophomores. This is the Colt Trot Valley Victory, $423,000 purse. And we might be able to make this quick if we can get a show of hands. Who all thinks Carl wins? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that part's out of the way. The most interesting point that I think we could make, does anybody have a long shot they think can hit the ticket? Show of hands, long shot that can hit the ticket. That's Barnsdale, you're first. You were really excited. You were really excited to talk. Who do you think hits the ticket here?
I really like the way Daiquiri Hanover closed last week. I don't know about the 12-1 morning line or what kind of a exactor price you're going to get here, but if I can get somewhere in the neighborhood of 6-1, I'll be betting 6-4 straight.
That exacta, by my estimation, would pay about $9. Show of hands. Does $9 on that exacta sound fair to anybody? Not even you, Barnsdale. Wow. Okay.
Mike, I don't want $9 on that.
Mike, your hand popped up. Are you on the Daiquiri Hanover camp as well?
Horse. I think we'll all be on the same horse there. I mean, that horse is obvious, and the 12-1 is going to bring a lot more eyes because people are going to say, "Oh, this horse is 12-1." You find a morning line like that, and they tend to get hammered. I think that horse will be the second choice. I think the 1 probably is the other horse, and it's really those two underneath.
Now, Jess, being on track for that elimination, were there any horses that kind of caught your eye coming out of the race, specifically on trip or anything else that you might have seen?
No, I really thought that the elimination winner handled the trip really well. He looks like he can be a little bit of a quirky horse, and I've seen him race plenty of times over Lexington and at the Meadowlands, but I just thought he handled the trip well. He got position from an outside. He sat the pocket like a professional, and when Andy had room, he was able to trot home really strongly. I'm not going to say he's going to be 8-1 when it comes to time, because I know people maybe overlook the elimination winners or overbet the elimination winners, but I just think he handled that trip so well that he's definitely worth a look at in the field.
Okay, so we got 2 Daiquiri Hanovers, so I could go for a Daiquiri Hanover right now, if I'm being honest. Winter Soldier has a vote. John, I think I saw your hand. Are you also thinking Daiquiri Hanover is the horse, or are you gonna give us something a bit more juicy?
You know what? Daiquiri Hanover, that's a horse. I saw the morning line and I figured this guy's going to take a lot more support than I think the morning line indicates. And I think by virtue of what we're saying here on the podcast, you mentioned, Ray, though, did anyone look good warming up? I was just watching from home, but I noticed Daiquiri Hanover looked exceptional post-parade. Like, I just saw him and I said, wow, this guy just looks awesome. And he raced exceptionally well as well. But I think this is a race where I'm going to try and maybe look for a horse like Waterfall underneath. I've actually liked the way he's raced over his last 2. I thought he raced just fine. Obviously, Daiquiri Hanover was able to edge him out on the place spot and showed a bit more trot late, but he has a good draw to work with. I like the way that he's trending forward so far this year. I mean, nothing too impressive in that Kentucky Goldenrod start, but took some time off, and I really think that he's kind of found his form and found his rhythm over at the Meadowlands, and I think that Todd McCarthy can work out a pretty good trip and hit the ticket underneath for a price.
And plus, too, a race like the Valley Victory being in November, a lot of times, a stake that's aimed for some of these horses that are developing later in the season, give him one last try at a big purse. And he only has 5 starts. Daiquiri Hanover, the only other real fresh one with 4 starts under his belt. He debuted in September in the Bluegrass, of all races. Much easier company to debut against, if that tells you anything about what the Svenstedts might think of that horse. But Robbie Reid, we're going to have a probable 1-9. I'd venture 1-20 favorite in Carl. Certainly, Daiquiri Hanover, you might get a 4-1 exacta if you're lucky on that. But do we have to get creative when it comes to trying to find these underneath horses, or do you think a race like this, especially with 2-year-old trotting colts, can be that simple?
First of all, Carl, I mean, I still don't know how he's not 9 for 9. I know he lost that race in Lexington, but I mean, watching that race live and even 10 times on the replay, I still thought he won that race. But for me, Flying Chronos to 10, because I'm a big fan of taking back value. I think it's a bounce back spot for that one. Raced well from an outside post before. And I just think that 6-5 and the elimination, you're going to come back with a much bigger price now. And I think if he bounces back, you can get paid on the exotics.
Did it bother you, though, that he was completely empty? in this track?
No, not really.
Okay.
No.
I think the second most important question with post 10 at the first quarter, where do you think he is?
Hopefully
Flying
on front
Chronos.
or close
Okay.
to it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what he did. That's what he did in the kindergarten final, right? So that's what I'm thinking. He's got to do to get into position there. And again, I'm a big fan of taking back value. That's something that I always preach on all the shows that I'm on. So, you're 6 of 5 in the elimination. Yeah, it was a brutal effort. Missed a week between starts, and I'm thinking he can bounce back with a much better effort. And he's going to be a price. I obviously like Zachary Hanover, but like everyone else, there's not going to be 12-1 on there. You're going to likely have him as a definitive second choice, right? So I'd rather look maybe to the stablemate to create a little bit of value.
Certainly, if Dex. Oh, were you gonna say something, Garnsdale?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. Just a little sniffle sneeze. I understand. You're allowed more of those to the show if you'd like. Certainly, you're gonna get probably like I'd say 30, 40 to 1 on Flying Chronos. That you could easily get a 20 to 1 exact on that, and that's something that I could get behind. Beyond that, it's a pretty simple race. I'm surprised no one talked about security protected. I guess everyone's just of the mindset that he's going to be a short price and too short of a price worth betting off time off. Third place finish in the Breeders' Crown final, though, not bad, I'd say. But if he's like the second or third choice, I'm in full agreement. Waterfall, though, I'm with John on that one. That's a sneaky horse who I think you can forgive him not being the strongest finisher in the elimination just because, the experience it's still coming. He's still learning. He's still figuring things out. But that's certainly a race where you got to get through Carl. And, hey, here's another humdinger of a race to try and figure out how to beat the favorite. Race 6, FanDuel Championship for the trotting mares. 5 horses going postward. Maybe not this much of a coin flip this time, Mike, because the morning line says Bond, Jiggy Jog. It's apparently a Svenstedt date to dinner in this race, but 5 to 1 on MM's Dream. She's not out for the count.
She was 5 to 1 in that Breeders' Crown final, well, 4.5, and she was coming back on Jiggy Jog whenever Jiggy looked gone. So it's tough to know, I think, what kind of trip she sets in here. I'm very curious to see like the team tactics here with Bond and Jiggy Jog. Does Bond try to cut it out? Jiggy Jog, I think, is a little bit better from off the pace, at least more recently. I mean, she was dominating some of those fields where she was going to the front when she was the best horse. Well, this is going to be a little different now. And does one go and the other one, come around? It's the tactics are going to be very curious. And when MM Dream was able to beat Jiggy Jog, she took it right to her back on Hambo Day. So that was, I think maybe she might have been a little better then than she is right now, at least recently, but she's in the conversation. She's going to be probably 4 times the price of the other 2. And if you can't, decide how are they going to line up or, what kind of trip, she's definitely capable and you're going to get paid if you like her. I like Jiggy Jog. I think she's probably the best, the most talented. The fact that she's in the race tells you that she's probably on go, but you're going to get probably 4 to 5, maybe 3 to 5. She'll be the favorite in the race, and that's what makes it tough. I don't think it's a great betting race, but I can't wait to see it.
Now, Jess, you mentioned being at qualifiers. MM's Dream, the lone qualifier of this field. Any kind of things stand out to you with her when she was third behind Take All Comers?
I'm not going to lie, I wasn't overly impressed. I thought maybe she'd have a little bit more of a kick at the end of the mile, but she just kind of flattened out a bit, which I don't really know how much I want to read into that because she was really good in that Breeders' Crown final. I thought she did come on again really nicely against Jiggy Jog, but it's academic and Take All Comers just kind of left her in the dust a bit there. So I don't know. I definitely, speaking of like tripwises and whatever, when you get the rail, it's so hard to leave at the Meadowlands and be on front or second. You're going to get away third, fourth, or fifth. And if that's the case, I know Aki is going to probably try to find a helmet with Bond. Jiggy Jog is, good either way, but she's going to want to come from off the pace. But it'll be interesting to see because if those two want to follow someone and it leaves nothing but David then on the front end, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, John, we can talk about this too with 5-horse fields. Sometimes it is kind of it's not a race for who wants the lead. It's kind of just you can take the lead and we'll make our move when we make our move. So that could play into the hands of a horse like MM Street, or maybe even if she's able to reverse the form from the Breeders' Crown final, raised by Lindy, who's known for her gate speed too.
Yeah, I think that I mean, do you guys think that Bond is going to end up being the second choice in this race? Though I just want to pose that question first.
I do.
Only one thought on that.
I'm not sure. I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know either.
MM's Dream's going to be a lot lower than 5-1. I think. I'm
Yeah.
not sure Bond's second choice here as a
It'll be
3-year-old.
close.
I just don't know what to make of that. I mean, that start in the Breeders' Crown Final was pretty strange, right? I mean, it looked like Jiggy Jog was going to kind of open up and be an easy winner, and then MM's Dream kind of comes back on again, and we've seen her get the best of Jiggy Jog in the past. Right now, you guys talk about value as well. I think that this is a race that maybe if Bond does take some support by virtue of what she's done so far in her sophomore campaign, maybe we can just forgive MM's Dream, right? I mean, we've seen Ray and I saw firsthand over at Mohawk, right, when Burke kind of took this mare over. She didn't really respond to it. I think she made a miscue off the gate too. So he had her, in a good spot afterwards. He figured it out a couple starts after. Sometimes she's shown that she's put forth some lackluster efforts, or not lackluster per se, but efforts that she likely should have got the job done off of. But this might be a nice bounce back start for her in the final. Again, I'm with Jess. I don't know what to make of that qualifier, right? I mean, she was chasing a couple of pretty talented trotters in that mile. I wanted to see her finish up a little more, but I didn't really notice Dave asking her too much. I think it was just a trip around the track. I think that, you have to just kind of give Burke the credit and hope that she's ready to go when the money's on the line. And I think she's going to be value in here because I think the other two are going to take support. So why not take a stab here?
Her main thing though is that she's always kind of been a grinder versus a horse that's had a load of gate speed. Like you and I remember, John, I think it was the Armbro Flight elimination or it was the start before that, Dave lost her trying to leave, and then he really had to baby her off the gate, and that's been an ongoing trend, is that she eases off the gate now versus bull rushing off. And, with horses like Jiggy Jog raised by Lindy Bont, horses that have even Swan's Eye, who has gate speed, that kind of puts her in a precarious spot from that inside post, as Jess was mentioning as well. Robbie, we have Bond, the 3-year-old, within a field of all 4-year-olds. Oh, isn't that something? Does age trump here?
Well, yeah, it does. Yeah, it's generally going to do that for me. I know some people disagree with it, but if the 3-year-olds win, then I'm likely going to lose. That's just the way it is. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, obviously, but for me, maturity always plays a big part in it. And I'll be honest, like I couldn't, just off watching, their races, I'm not going to get to Bond ahead of Jiggy Jog or MM's Dream anyway. So, I mean, she's a fantastic filly, but again, I don't like taking 3-year-olds against 4-year-olds, even at this point in the year. And for me, I was, Jiggy Jog on top, MM's Dream pick second, and thinking that obviously the better value in the win ticket, like everyone else, is going to be MM's Dream. And I think she, is more than capable of upsetting with the right kind of trip. She almost did in the Breeders' Crown. So those two for me, and yeah, Bond. I mean, it's not an auto toss, but generally speaking, it's going to be one where I shy away from the 3-year-olds in these spots.
Man, with what everyone's been talking about Barnsdale, I'm feeling more and more alone in the camp that Raised by Lindy is a good value play for the exotics in this race. Am I really alone here? Is it just me on this island?
I could see her getting a piece. I mean, she had to go to the front from the 9-hole in the Breeders' Crown, and the front end was no good most of that night, right? So she's going to be a huge price, and I'm not going to argue with you. You think she can get a piece, especially in a 5-horse field. Even if she gets third and you hit a try straight, you could do okay. One thing I'll say about the age factor is you hear two different sides of the coin. You hear people say, well, she's on, it's late in her 3-year-old year. She's almost 4. But then when 3 very good 3-year-olds are starting their 4-year-old year, you hear other people saying a lot of times it's horsemen. That's the toughest age when they're turning 4, facing older. So which one is it, right? Make up your mind. I don't know. But for me, I think Jiggy Jog's on a roll. I think she's the best mare. She's probably going to be a single for me in most, in the multi-race wagers. That Breeders' Crown was a bit weird. I don't know if she just got a little bit lazy at the end of the race, but she was never really in danger of losing the race. So I think she's just the best, and she's probably going to win this race.
Lest we forget, Jiggy Jog went first over around that last turn too, before getting a little lost in the stretch. And good drive by Dexter Dunn to kind of intimidate MM's Dream a little bit through the lane there and hold position to win in that Breeders' Crown final. But Jiggy Jog, rightfully the horse to beat as the even money favorite. It's all with these FanDuel championships, always nice to see 3-year-olds entering the competition just to add a little bit of extra intrigue into these handicapping puzzles. Bond at 7-5, though, I honestly would try and get Raised by Lindy into the number there. Next stake, 3 Diamonds final. 2-year-old Pacing fillies, $376,000 on the line. And what I'm curious about from Jessica is that of these two recent winners at the Meadowlands, who do you think was more impressive? My girl EJ winning her 3 Diamonds elimination, or Caviar Bell storming home in that kindergarten final?
Which one was more impressive? Oof, that's a tough question. Caviar Bell had been so good all season, and then she kind of fell off the tail there when she went to Mohawk, I think, in the She's a Great Lady. But that was the horse that Nancy said that when she got back home, she was a totally different horse, and she really came back to herself. I will say, though, I've been a fan of my girl EJ all season. And you've heard Ronnie Burke say, like, he wouldn't trade his filly for any other filly, and it paid off in the Breeders' Crown. She's the one who, obviously upset in Geocentric. I think that Caviar Bell was impressive, but I'm going to go with my girl EJ, even though I know she's going to be a super short price. She had to move. Dexter was so patient with her up the backside. He moved her in the 3rd quarter, and he just had to ask her just to kind of keep her attention in the lane. The plugs were still in, and she did it with ease, honestly. So I think she's a very versatile filly. If they try to mix it up, I think, she's very capable of sitting there and waiting as long as she has to. Only thing is you don't want to get locked in. You probably don't want to get away 3rd and have to come first over against a killer on the front end, or get locked in. I think that's, boxed in the stretch. We saw that a couple of times last week. It worked out for Toddy and Captain Luke, but it didn't work out in a couple of other spots. So I would definitely think that my girl EJ is the one here.
Yeah, Robbie, I see 2-1 on the morning line. More likely than not, we're probably going to see her closer to 6-5 even money. I would even say if you're lucky. Not that I think that's necessarily a great price on her, but just given the resume and the seamlessness to which she has won, does she get the Rob Reid stamp of approval?
You know what the problem is that here I go again. I'm a chalk eating weasel, right? I mean, throughout this so far, we'll have to break that trend at some point. But yeah, she does, because the Breeders' Crown performance, I thought, was it was unbelievable. It really was. And then obviously she came right back, and it was impressive in her elimination for the 3 Diamonds. And in overnight races, missing a week or 2 weeks or a month in between, it matters. I don't think it matters as much at this level, but she's got that too. She's right back in on a regular schedule. I had a hard time going against her. I actually was looking for something in this race, and I couldn't do it. My girl EJ was the one that I was staunchly on, throughout my handicapping of this race. And I guess the one that I might go to for underneath would be Miraculous Dale, the one that finished 2nd during the elimination, hoping that can work out again, using her lead speed from the 9 hole instead of the 10 hole this time. So I think if you get 7-5, 8-5 under, you're probably in good shape. And I hate to take favorites, but I couldn't go against her off her recent performances.
I don't. Oh, apparently the Progress Pace is gone. Why doesn't Dover know that we're doing our broadcast right now? Why would they book the Progress Pace during this discussion? That's crazy, if you ask me. We gave them ample notice over at Dover. Apparently they're up the backside though.
Are you stopping the show to watch it, or what do you want to go live? Like, what are you doing?
No, everyone else who's watching at this point has stepped away to watch it. So I figure, why shouldn't I too? I mean, sure, I'm hosting the show, but also this is a big thing, I guess, that's happening. And I would like to congratulate El Rey, who's turning for home at the top of the stretch. Actually, I should congratulate Cannibal, who's sitting in the pocket and looks like on the outside. I'm going to congratulate Why Not Now, as he has just become the Progress Pace winner. Yeah, Why Not Now? Round of applause, everybody. Let's congratulate Why Not Now. 148-2 at Dover Downs in November in the Progress Pace final. That's making me sweat. Whew.
Imagine someone betting that race live, Ray, with you giving them that bad info on the turn there, right? Like, this one's going to win, that one's going to win. My dad did that to me once. He did that to me once in a thoroughbred race. You could bet live, back in the day. Yeah, he told me, oh, this one, and I bet that one, and then I ended up betting 5 different horses in the race.
I was
You
gonna
needed
say,
El Rey, Robbie?
What's that? No. I'm not betting while I'm doing this with you guys. Come on, that would be sick.
yeah, that'd be crazy. I'd like to think that no one was betting that live because in England they're all asleep by now. But back to the 3 diamonds specifically. Garnsdale, I don't know. We're talking about favorite. It can't be all favorites. It can't be. I mean, it could be all favorites, but I don't want to think it's all favorites in these stakes.
It won't all be favorites, but I think you're going to get another one here. Robbie stole my thunder. I'm going to try a 6-9 here. I thought Caviar Bell, was she impressive? Sure, but I mean the race kind of fell into her lap to just motor by those horses, right? When they went 26 and 3, 54 flat to the half, and then you got a 28 and a 27 and 4 quarters to end it. So she's probably going to, a 6-3 here will probably be paying nothing. And that's kind of an angle, right? To take the horse to finish second to the horse you're taking on top. And I think a 6-9 will be paying well. I think we're going to pick against some favorites in some of these races, but it's tough in this one to do that.
John, is it really that tough?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough to go against My Girl EJ and Caviar Bell. But for me, it's My Girl EJ. I think I'm with everybody else here. That was a pretty good elimination, though, right, Ray? I mean, we've seen this filly. She's kind of rounding into form right now. It was a first over trip. Dexter, she came home in 26 and 3, right? And she had to do it the hard way, and she was shut down halfway down the lane, right? Caviar Bell, while she was impressive motoring down the lane, she did have a bit of speed to chase, right? And it was nice to see her bounce back, but I mean, it's just too tough to go against My Girl EJ. I think the right idea is to just try and find some value players underneath. I really like the way Miraculous Teo has raced. I actually made a play on her 2 starts back. She got locked in with Todd McCarthy, unfortunately, and then I had to see Caviar Bell just kind of motor home to beat me while I was locked into the behind some horses. But I think maybe Sarasota Hanover. I think she's a sneaky player here to maybe hit the ticket. She was kind of locked in a bit last time. I know this horse does have some speed, and she's kind of handy enough to get the job done and leave the gate aggressively. So Sarasota Hanover is probably one that I'd be looking for underneath.
It's final. You finally jumped off the Blue Pacific bandwagon. It's so sad to see. You had a great 9-start run with her, John, and I hope that.
What was the tweet again? What was the tweet?
Yeah, let's not bring that up just now.
I'm trying to remember it. I've got a bookmark.
I was really high. I was really high on her. Okay, I was really, really high on her, and then
gotta keep the receipts, right?
Yeah. Kind of like Vukafellos, I think.
Yeah, I've been wrong plenty of times.
I sunk on the same ship with John as Vukafellos, but I hope at the very least at Blue Pacific you had a good prenup. Mike. There are so many votes for My Girl. Am I the only? I must be the only one who feasibly thinks Caviar Bell is the winner of this race.
I like Caviar Bell a lot. I think that I'm going against My Girl. The thing about My Girl EJ, I loved her in the Breeders' Crown. Not many people did, but I did. What's the difference with her is she's been taught to rate now, and she's able to sit and then come. And that has been the difference in her these past few races. And so that's what's made her into the killer that she is. But Caviar Bell coming back and really she was a monster there for a while too, and she looked unbeatable for a while, and then she was off form, and then all of a sudden she shows up in that kindergarten final and storms home in 26 and 3 and goes sub 150, and now she's inside. She doesn't have to be outside taking that trip. She can take it to him. She used to be able to take her these races up close. She's going to be up close again. I see Yannick being aggressive. I think he gets the jump. And they're going to have to come and get her here. That makes a huge difference in the dynamics in this race. The trip's not going to be the same. The fact that she showed up here and overcame, and that wasn't her typical trip, and got back to herself makes her very dangerous, I think, especially whenever she's going to be, I would say, probably 3-1 in this race. And I think that that's worth taking. And I agree with John about Sarasota Hanover also. That kindergarten final, she sort of got lost whenever she got, up front and got tracked down late. But she, I think, could trip out in here. She's going to be a big price. Scott Zeron, there's no secret that I think he's the best driver. So, I'm going to stick with my man there too. I think that that's a horse worth using in exotics for sure. Now, I mean, yeah, my girl EJ can win, and she's probably 1-2, but I'm going to try Caviar Bell in here. I think that the trip could work out.
I was going to ask what price you think you'd get. 3-1 would be
3.
pretty good. On
Yeah, I
affiliate,
think 3.
like, especially because we forget that the big race that threw her onto our radar was when she won in a stakes record at Mohawk. It was either in 51 or 50 in the Eternal Cam Nation. That was back in late August, early September, and then going into the She's a Great Lady, the moment she took time off, and that's the only thing I'm curious about here, because the moment she took time off, Yannick said that she was getting a little lazy. So I'm curious if having the few weeks off from the kindergarten final, if Caviar Bell is as spring-legged as she was in her return to Jersey for that stakes event, because everything about that, she did it with barely being asked. I believe the plugs were still in too, and she mowed down Sarasota and Miraculous Deo fairly easily. So I'm sorry, my girl EJ, that's you don't really stand much of a chance in my eyes until you beat me, in which case congrats to everyone who won my money. I will say though, Foxy Hill I think is a sleeper for Chris Ryder and Louis Waugh in that race. 12-1 morning line, only 6 starts under her belt. She's showing some sneaky progress that I could speak more on had I not just thrown my past performance page with all the information on it. So it's a good enough reason to move on to the next race.
She was 120-1 last time. I don't know what should be like, what, 200 in this race?
Oh, I would, Mike, I would take a quarter of that. Hell,
you're going to get it.
I'd take an eighth of that if I could get it. Goldsmith Made is race 8 on this Saturday card. I believe, yeah, just the third of the 4 fall final 4. So this is the third final 4 of the night at the Meadowlands. 10 horses going postward for the 2-year-old trotting fillies. $428,000 purse. Elimination winners here are Melina, Soiree Hanover. Soiree Hanover landing post 2. R. Melina landing post 5. They are respectfully the morning line favorites at 2-1 and 5-2. Mr. Johnny Rallis, Soiree Hanover, pretty much all season long has been this dynamo filly that anytime she gets off a helmet, she just gobbles and keeps plugging along. And then R. Melina has been kind of the surprise grinder with speed, as she's shown. But in a race like this, do you feel like one has the edge over the other?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's hard not to like what Soiree Hanover's done so far this season, and Armelina as well. I mean, it was a tough choice for Timmy, I bet, right? Just because both were very well. One has been really impressive all season, and one has really, come into her own. But I'm not going to use any of them on top in this race, Ray. Jess actually alluded to it earlier about some rivals getting locked into the pocket. I really love Honey Sweet in this spot. I thought that she was locked and loaded. I love the body language of Yannick Gingras. I mean, I think if she got racetrack, she was going to jog in that race. And I really liked her qualifier when she qualified in, in Lexington at the Red Mile, her parimutuel debut. I thought it was a good one coming off a helmet. And I really thought she was going to be one of the top players in this 2-year-old filly trotting division. Unfortunately, it just never ended up being the case. But she, Yannick always tried to cut the mile with this filly, right? And she kind of got sleepy on the lead. She got things her own way and would stop. Her races have been so much better when she's had a target to chase, right? So I think that last week, she was locked into 2-hole. I thought that if she gets out, she was an easy winner. And I think we're going to see some other fillies in here wanting to cut the mile, specifically being Armelina. And I know Soiree Hanover is lethal off a target as well, but we've seen her kind of, get some unfortunate trips in the past. We saw it in the Breeders' Crown when the cover didn't really advance much, but I just think Honey Sweet is, coming into her own right now. And off the body language of Yannick, she was running over Timmy's helmet, right? I mean, she wanted to go. So I really love Honey Sweet in this spot. And I think there's a good chance she might be my best bet, on Saturday night.
Two things. One, John, sorry, Ray, but okay. One, you got the rail, John. So what happened the last time she was on the rail?
Yeah, I mean, the last time she was on the rail, she made the miscue. I'm aware of that, and she was a short price, but we don't really see breaks from this filly, right? I mean, I'm gonna excuse that. I know that she did make a miscue, but I'll excuse that. It was only one time. It was a great effort last time out. I'm not gonna not take a filly when she's only shown one break.
You say it was a great effort, and I see that she was locked in, but they went 128-1. I mean, she had really. I mean, she's got to be loaded off of that, off a pocket trip, and 128-1. I mean, come on. I mean, like.
Yeah. She should be,
You know,
but still,
you're not going to get that trip this week. You're not going to get that.
probably not. But I think I'm going to get a helmet, which I've seen her perform, put forth some pretty good effort. So hey, listen, she's going to be a value player. I know that everybody is going to be tough. Maybe those other two fillies are going to be too tough to beat. But
I just don't see the value whenever, you know, she was 6-5 in the kindergarten and she ran, and then she's 4-1 last time against Story Hanover, and now everybody saw what you saw. So I don't know. I think she could be underlaid, and now you're going to go on TV and tell everybody that she's, you know, your best bet. I mean, I mean, it's just like,
I didn't say that.
I mean, like, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what kind of price you think you're going to get, but it's not going to be that high.
She's going to be third choice in this race, Mike. And I think that's, you know, in a race where most people are going to be looking to Soiree Hanover and Armelina, I do consider that value when you can take a stand with this filly if she gets the job done.
Jess, Mike raises a couple of interesting points. I was just about to ask you about Honey Sweet, because we all saw in the elimination there off those slow fractions, Yannick, I don't think he had to go to the gym the day after with how much Honey Sweet was pulling on him to go from the pocket. How do you, in your handicapping, rate something visual like that, given the pace setup, given how the stretch drive went? Do you elevate Honey Sweet, or do you think everyone else saw that I should try something else?
There's two ways. I think everybody saw that. And if you listen to Timmy after the race, you know, he had nothing but the choice to move to the front, or they were going to go too slow and he was going to get caught in a spot where he was going to, you know, too far back, like the Breeders' Crown. So, I really loved Honey Sweet in the Kindergarten Classic final. And that's when she made the miscue behind the break, or behind the gate, with the rail. I'm gonna go elsewhere. I'm not saying she's not deservingly to try and you round out those exotics and those other, you know, wagers, but I really liked the way Armelina raced. She absolutely flawless speed in the stretch. The way she did it easily. When Timmy got off the bike, he said, "This horse is sharp right now." He said, you know, yeah, Hoosier, maybe the front end wasn't the spot for her to be in that elimination in the Breeders' Crown. But I mean, look at the way she's raced in the Matron, in the International Stallion, she raced really well. The Kentuckiana, she raced really well. I think she wasn't facing as toughest company, so people were overlooking her in some of those spots. I think, you know, Dexter's a good, you know, obviously a great second choice behind T-Trick in here. I don't think you're going to get much of a price difference maybe between Soiree Hanover and Armelina. I'm not saying, you know, Armelina is a dead single by any means. But for a price, I really think Pizzelle is somebody that needs to be watched. I think the first start over the Meadowlands was really good, maybe a little flat-ish when they turned for home, but then she really picked up the trot, and she was, you know, I know she finished fourth, but they were 4 across the wire there. And then last week, the ground she made up, the way she hit another gear, I thought she raced really well. I think if, you know, maybe things are set up a little hot up front, she'll be put in a really good position to poise and pounce late in the stretch.
Well, what do you make then, Jess, of a horse like Sambuca Hanover getting the bye from winning the kindergarten final, coming in off that single qualifier where she was 11 lengths behind Tactical Approach? Obviously, 2-year-old filly probably not going to beat Tactical Approach in a qualifier, but how do you rate her coming into a stake like this?
Well, you know, I've talked to the connections of her a couple of times too. She's a big, lengthy horse, and she just really needed a couple of extra starts. So they really tried to aim her for the later part of the season, and I think it's really helped them. There's a lot of money for the 2-year-olds to be made in the back half of the season, and you know, we push these 2-year-olds pretty tough. I mean, they come home from the sale, they get broke, they're training down, they're jogging, they're putting all those miles into them, and then you expect them to, you know, be the best of their game in July and race all the way to November. So I think that's the case for her. And again, I think, how much do you read into the kindergarten final when Honey Sweet does make a break, and it did change the complexion of the race, and the fractions really weren't that hot? I'm not taking anything away from her, but she didn't seem Glamorous Hanover coming up the inside, who I thought raced really well in that final as well. And it was a good tightener behind Tactical Approach, obviously, in that qualifier. I think there's 2 horses you could use in the top of the ticket, which is Armelina and Soiree Hanover, and Pizzelle and Sambuca Hanover and Glamorous Hanover underneath.
Now, Garnsdale, since you were touching on the horses going from 3 to 4, these are obviously 2-year-olds towards the tail of their freshman season. Obviously, some of these horses kind of showing us what they are at this point. Another case could be made that there probably is still room for them to keep progressing as in towards the end of the season. So do you think that there are any horses in here that you think are on an upward swing in this final stakes of the calendar year, or do you think it's this is kind of just these horses are what they are at this point?
I think Pizzelle might be the one that Jess referenced. Last two starts were really good. But yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of, it's going to be interesting to see how they come back at 3. Some of them come back great. Some of them don't, right? So it'll be interesting to see for sure.
And so then Pizzelle for you, is that you taking a stand that Pizzelle could potentially grab the Okay.
Absolutely not. I'm going to take a stand.
Absolutely not. Okay.
I'm going to take a stand in single Soiree Hanover. I think she's a standout here. I love that her elimination was slower, but she was off 3 weeks. I love that people are on horses that were sitting on a helmet off a 59.5. That's not going to happen again, exactly like Mike said. And I think you might get a little bit of an overlay on her in here. And she's an absolute single for me.
Rob, so far you've been pretty much all chalk. Soiree Hanover, assumedly the chalk in this race. I have a hunch you're not going to break this trend anytime soon.
Well, I'm going to break it here, but first of all, wellness check on John because his camera went off for a bit. All right, John?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I was checking the odds board over at Dover.
Okay, good. All right, here's the deal though. So I'm actually going to be with John on this one.
There you go.
And you know what? And I'm the first one. Then the Horse Players Journal and on broadcast, I'm going to say, listen, you know what? A horse is supposed to look loaded in situations like that. But yeah, I actually am with John. I watched the replays, and yeah, others saw it too. Probably get underlay, whatever. I get it, but also get an opportunity to take back some value. Right, made a break in stride. Yes, it was from the rail. I think that Yannick's gonna be ready for that this time out, though. Made a break in stride in the kindergarten as a heavy favorite. Came back, and I like that. I like coming into this brave now, and I put a big circle around her as. I don't know if that's in my best bet on the card, but one of my ones that I'm going to definitely zero in on as a top play. So yeah, I'm actually with John on this one, and hey, I'll take the heat too because I know that we're not supposed to like horses that don't do any racing and look loaded when they should look loaded. I get it, but I just thought it looks like a good spot with a horse that should be brave coming into this. So I razzed him a little bit there, but now I'm going to be with him. We'll go down together on this one, John. Honey sweet for me.
Rob, you shouldn't have done that because now look at your left. Mike's pissed. Mike's furious that you would even think Honey Sweet is a bet here. Mike, I want to apologize on behalf of both of them. You don't deserve to have to deal with this kind of stuff. However, you can tell us how Soiree Hanover is probably valued at 6-5.
Well, the only problem with her is that she certainly likes to take her time, doesn't she? I mean, she likes to sit back and kind of let the race come to her, and it's worked out well for her, but it might not in this case. And that last race, that elimination just completely threw that race out as far as how close she was. She just doesn't like to race up close. She's typically 5, 6, 7, 10 lengths off the pace, and that can lead to trouble in a race like this where, there's really some I think it's difficult to know who's going to be up close and how the trips are going to go. I'm not sure how aggressive Tetrick is here. She's the best horse, but she might not get the best trip here, and she might have to overcome. The horse I think that's coming into the race well is Glamorous Hanover because she's, I think, a late developer. These last 3 races, I mean, she was 90-1 in that kindergarten final, and she was, it very, very easily could have worked out that she won that race. She was free just a little bit too late, and she's had 2 starts since then and has been second in both. She's not out of place here, and I think she's going to be out of place on the board. Sorry, Hanover's going to take money. Armelina is going to take money. Obviously, Honey Sweet's going to take a lot of money because Rallis is like mortgaging his house to get this horse. And now Robbie's on board too. I mean, shit, this horse could be 3-1 by the time it's all said and done. So that's just going to inflate the prices on Glamorous Hanover and Sambuca Hanover. If Soiree doesn't win, I think it's a long shot. I'm not crazy about Armelina. I could see her, but I don't know. It's just that Breeders' Crown elimination kind of shows that she can maybe throw in a dud too. That's a possibility. I want to try to price reach here. I think if the race a race blows up, it could be this one because a lot of these have been taking turns and beating each other. There's a good chance that 1 or 2 of these could break early. this division, I think, lends itself to prices. So this is the race you want to try to find one.
And just for my sake, you want to do it with this tactical landing filly who is 1 for 14.
That's okay.
Lost ground against Armelina in that elimination when finishing second. That doesn't worry you at all that she was.
Well, it's not that. I just think that she's better right now. She's better than she was earlier in the season. She's starting to figure things out. She could get a trip. She very easily could have won the kindergarten final. That was a lot closer than it probably should have been on a horse that's 90-1. So she's not going to be 90-1, but she's certainly not going to be 3.
This is the part where I'm supposed to scold Mike, right?
I don't mind her.
To scold Mike for that one.
That's not in the script, John. That's not in the script.
And I'm the one who's supposed to not. We're not supposed to like Honey Sweet, but we can like Glamorous.
Well, I'm giving you 20-1 shots. You're giving me like 2-1 shots by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah, but hold on. I'm giving you 4-1. She'll probably go off at 3-4-1. Who actually?
Not when you're done with her, John.
Not a frog's bad there too.
Good shot of winning. Glamorous Hanover. I mean, she had her own way 2 starts back.
Well, I knew you were going to come for me on this. Go ahead.
No, but she's 1 for 14. I mean, I think this is a tougher group here. I mean, I actually did I did take a small stab on her 3 starts back when she was 90-1. I really did. And I was watching the inside.
So you thought she could win a race at 90-1 and now she's like 20 in here and you think it's crazy?
Well, no, I liked her at 90-1 because she made a miscue when I played her a few starts back on the 27th. So I wanted to take a poke because I knew that she had a little bit of ability, but not against this group. So I don't know. I think I feel like you got to like Honey Sweet more than Glamorous Hanover, but I don't know why nobody's giving you any heck for that, but I don't know.
No, nobody's giving you any heck. You must really be in a pew right now, Mr. Rallis. I will never challenge Mike for going with a 90-1 shot as much as he would challenge me for picking 200-1 shots. But that said, I saw everything I needed to see when Soiree Hanover lost the Breeders' Crown final by a head. So I would like to congratulate her as the winner of the Goldsmith Maid. Mike, if you would like to instead Venmo me, however much you're going to bet on Glamorous Hanover, feel free. John and Rob, you could also Venmo me your bets on Honey Sweet too. That way the bettors might actually get 6-1 if they're lucky, and I could finally take a vacation. 9th race, it's the final fall Final Four, the 4th of the Final Four. Finally, 9th race on Saturday. Governor's Cup Final, $454,000. Oh, that's fine. It's a Final Four. It's $454,000. Yeah, you can't make this up. 10 horses going to post. I have to scold John here because, gosh, dang it, John. He was 0 for 10 coming into the elimination, and you had to go and tweet your fingers that Captain Luke might actually be a sneaky horse here. And then he goes off 3-2. He wins his elimination, and now he's probably gonna be one of the betting principals. John, why would you do this to me? Why would you kill the price on Captain Luke?
I thought I waited long enough. I mean, there was like 30 seconds.
You did. He was 3-2 in the first turn. You somehow got your bet out at the 8th pole.
He was 3-1 going to the gate. I'm not sure what happened there, but I really thought he was a value player. He didn't really play the same way in pick 5 tickets, which he was a stone cold single for me that night. It was good to see him bounce back with an effort, but you're right, Ray. I wish I did get much better than 3-2, but clearly Lasix did help this colt. He was actually racing much better than his record indicated, right? I mean, I know he was winless in 10 starts, but those were some really tough colts he was taking on, right? And those were some really good efforts. But I mean, the addition of Lasix, he looked like a different guy in the qualifier. Yannick obviously booked off for Total Stranger. I mean, he just pledges an allegiance to those connections, right? I mean, having the success to his brother and all that too. But I really like Captain Luke in this spot. I know he's going to be one of the betting favorites, but he just looked so good when he did get racetrack late in that mile. I think that second time out, he's going to be even stronger here, though. I will say it is a wide open race, but I'm going to side with Captain Luke again.
Captain Luke certainly beat some killers of the 2-year-old division, as I know Mike would describe. Honestly, Captain Luke beating a horse like Newsroom, that's gotta put him up several magnitudes for you.
Well, whenever we had the Newsroom argument, I still think I was proven right in that situation. Now Newsroom adds Lasix. I don't know. I do think he prefers this racetrack, and he might be okay. I'm going to try Price. I'm going to try Booming Economy to hopefully, get another off the pace trip and come flying again. He's 12-1 morning line. I think that's probably a little bit ambitious, but I could see 8 or 9 anyway here. Other horses are going to take action. Louvaton, I think, will take action. Newsroom will probably take action. Certainly, Captain Luke will take action. Maxim Hanover, I mean, his last 2 races have been pretty good, and he seems to like to dig in the stretch. There's a lot of money to come a lot of different places here. I think it's another good race to take prices, and I'll try Booming Economy. Just that off the pace. Hope to get a setup and get involved late.
Maxim Hanover, the other elimination winner. I had to guess who did not have any John Rallis money on him, seeing as he crossed the finish at 4-1. I'm curious, Jess, you have gotten a close look at Newsroom since the moment he stepped onto the track. If I'm not mistaken, he was a debuter at the Meadowlands in either the kindergarten series or something of that sort. What has been your impression from when you first saw him hit the track at the Meadowlands to what you saw when he finished second in the elimination last week?
This guy has a lot of fight to him. I think it was in the New Jersey Classics when Wish You Well got kind of close to him there in the elimination. And David actually had to ask him once or twice down the lane, and he responded. And then the next week, Wish You Well came right up next to him, and he was gone. I do think he's tailed off a bit. I don't know. Something obviously wasn't right in the Breeders' Crown final. He made a break behind the gate. He never looked comfortable on the track. He caused a recall. He never really settled down in the mile. But I am glad to see him bounce back, because I think, obviously a lot of people I read a lot of people were really disappointed in his effort, which, I mean, you can make a case for it, but I still thought he was okay. He had a couple of weeks off. Obviously he was uncomfortable. He was bleeding. So they add Lasix, which is interesting, because I'm a big first and then third time Lasix person when, looking at these horses and watching them week in and week out. Whoever said Booming Economy, I like that play as well. He was 3 wide in the first turn, and he was never be able to find the rail. And he's been racing really good. I think, that win in the International Stallion was a huge staple for him. Gate to wire in Lexington, parked the mile last week from post 7. If you can use some sort of gate speed just to get positioned and get into the outer flow up the backside, I think he's a definite player as well. I think this is quite a bit of a wide open race. I liked Total Stranger. I loved Total Stranger last week, but the horse I did use underneath them was Captain Luke. And that was the instance where Toddy got, kind of stuck there on the rail for a minute, and his horse was doubled up, but he was able to get out. So I'm going to have to take a really good long look at the way the horses look at the racetrack. I don't want them to be washed out, especially with these colts. So we'll see. But I think Booming Economy is a good play in here too.
First time Lasix on Newsroom, Garnsdale. Is that in a stakes race like this, especially last start of the season, is that a yay or uh-oh? I
mean, it could be. He was pretty good last week. He backed up at the right time, I guess, to let Captain Luke get some room. I wasn't really that impressed with Captain Luke last week. He set a perfect trip. He escaped at the right time. He easily could have been trapped for the whole stretch. I thought he got a little bit lucky. And unfortunately, I need to go first one of these times, because my thunder's been stolen again, because I really like Booming Economy. Like Jess said, Gingras had him in a bit of a jackpot on the first turn, which is, I don't see that happening again. He was 3 wide going into the first turn. I think he tucked in very briefly, was out the rest of the way. It wasn't the greatest cover, and he came flying late. I was hoping he would draw a little better, but you know what? Because he's got the 8-hole, you're going to get a price. So that's 3 of us that like Booming Economy. Maybe we're not going to get the price we're hoping for, but I'm definitely on him.
You might get a piece of it, because there's something about him that I think Rob Reid doesn't want to touch necessarily, but I dare you, Rob, to find who the favorite is in this race. I got no idea.
Oh, favorite? I don't know either.
Yeah.
This is a tricky race, right, from top to bottom. I'm not sure who the favorites can be, but I like Newsroom. I thought he raced really well last time. I agree with Garnet. I thought Captain Luke, you can't get a better situation for that win last time out. You sit on the rail the whole time, don't do a lot of racing, and he kind of had to come off the backs of horses there in tight quarters, but I mean, you can't get a better trip than that. So Newsroom for me, first time Lasix, I love it. I mean, Jessica said, he bled last time, and And that's obviously going to, hopefully help that. And I thought he raced really well in defeat, to be perfectly honest. And the other horse I thought raced well in there was It's Saturday Night. So those are the two that I'm looking at. I like Booming Economy as well, but this race kind of gave me fits. So for me, it'd be Newsroom over It's Saturday Night and Booming Economy 5 over 3-8. And I'm going to hope that this first time Liz Angle proves positive again. Last time Captain Luke, this time Newsroom.
And everyone's saying Captain Luke got a perfect trip, and I won't argue that he was sitting behind the leader. And I won't argue that sitting behind the leader is a perfect trip. But man, what I saw with him specifically that makes me think he stands a good chance in this race is pure handiness. And I know, John, you and I have been seeing this all, and we were both amazed. It's like, how's he still a maiden? Because he had the speed, he had the ability, but a lot of times it was either like he just wasn't in a good position, or some other piece like that. And then Toddy had to make his move, and the horse throws its neck out, and he's able to just pull out, and then the horse re-engages, just accelerates on a whim, and just that kind of handy, especially for a 2-year-old, to me, stands out. Newsroom certainly has speed. He certainly can carry that speed a long way. I may have thrown out my A4 vertebrae, in which case, Mike, I'll probably see you later. Captain Luke, to me, though, if he's 6-1, that's okay. I'd be betting that for my hospital bed with Mike taking care of me. As we move on to the 10th race, the dynamic duo of FanDuel Championships. First, the free-for-all trot, $350,000. Hambletonian winner, Tactical Approach, getting ready to say bonsoir, not to be confused with the filly who will win the Goldsmith Maid earlier in the card. As he gets ready for stallion duties after a campaign of $1.4 million in earnings, including a win in the Hambletonian, a win in the Kentucky Futurity, but not a win in the Yonkers Trot. He was nowhere to be found that day. 7 horses going to gate here, and since he's been begging to blow on the horn first, Mr. Garnet Barnsdale, Southwind Tyrion coming in off a victory in the Breeders' Crown Open against his virtuoso stablemate, Al Raja 1. Does he again have the upper hand?
No, absolutely not. He's not going to get that same trip up that very long passing lane and all the action, and that was no. He's not going to get that same trip. Look, in my opinion, if Al Raja 1 IT brings his best race, they're racing for second. But how do we know what he's going to be? Right? I think he was in a tough spot in the Breeders' Crown, first up into a 27 last quarter. I don't think any trotter was going to pace a sub 27 quarter to win a race that night. It's just a question of, is he going to bring his best race or not? That's what and is the price going to be worth it? I don't know. I don't know what his price is going to be. It's hard to guess at it. I don't think he'll be less than maybe 2-1 off that race. I do kind of like the 3-year-old in here a little bit to get a good piece of it. Tactical Approach has just been so good and so consistent all year. And Scott Zera could put him anywhere he wants. He might sit the rail the whole race and hope for a trip like the Hambo or the Kentucky Futurity. But I really think he gets a good piece of it. I think him and another one that's coming up, I think has a good chance. I'm not saying he's going to win the race, but I wouldn't say he can't either.
I was going to say, based off how those trips unfold in the Hambo and Kentucky Futurity, I don't think Scott could ever buy a scratch-off ticket ever again. This is the main thing, though, Robbie. Al Raja won all the last 2 years, even though it's only been 7 starts. 5 of those have been wins. The other 2, unexplainable losses. Except maybe that last race where he was in the slop having to go first up, admittedly something different. But there are some arguments that people would make. Maybe you're one of them after I say this. He might be 2-1 after having been 3-5, 2-5, even money at one point. Is that value no matter what?
2-1?
2-1.
On Raja 1? Oh, yes.
Let's
yeah.
say.
Sign
Okay.
me up.
Okay.
Sign me up. It's not going to happen, I don't think. Listen, horses like him don't forget how to be great. You know what I mean? And to me, he's one of the best trotters I've ever seen in my life. Even ahead of Ecurie D, who you love, Ray, your favorite horse that's ever stepped foot on the racetrack. He's better, though. He is. Al Raja 1, to me, breathtaking. That win, the Maple Leaf Trot, off a year, and the race he was scratched out of, I was there for that one, and it was absolutely unbelievable. And his performances after that were both, I thought, impressive as well. And then you're just going to forgive him for that sloppy track. and a race that was not Al Raja one-like. So I don't think you get 2-1, to be perfectly honest. I'd love to see it. I still think he's the best trotter in the race by margin. And, you know, if you get even close to that, it might look like value after the race, because I don't think they can beat him. Again, like Garnet said, though, he's got to bring his A game, but I think he comes back with that. I don't think he'd be in to go if he's not going to bring his A game, and I think we're going to see the best version of him in there. And again, tactical approach has been really good, but I'll likely be fading the 3-year-old again underneath and looking more so to maybe it's academic for you know, for a nice effort. He's a horse that always, you know, kind of finds a way to bring his best, and that's who I'll likely be looking at underneath.
Mikey, reel me in here.
Wow.
2-1, I thought Al Raja won possibly, but are the bettors going to really be that forgiving? Are they going to remember how much of their money was sunken on his defeat in the Breeders' Crown and go double dipping on Al Raja 1?
I think there'll be some even money in the race. I just think that everyone's opinion of him is so high. I mean, look how Robert described him. The Garnet's, I know, said several different times that he's the best, you know, thing he's ever seen, and but I'm not so sure. I mean, everyone thought he was unbeatable in the Breeders' Crown, and if he was unbeatable, he didn't really show it that night. Now, you know, when you're supposed to be unbeatable in the second coming, you're supposed to overcome adversity, and he did not do that. And it wasn't even close. And it's not like he finished a close second. He faded to 7th. He showed up by appointment only, especially this year. I don't know. I think this is the time to try to fade him, and I'd fade him in Maltese. I would fade him with tactical approach. I'd fade him with It's Academic. I think It's Academic really likes this racetrack. I think that he's had a stellar year. He's won 900,000. That Breeders' Crown bounce back I thought was very good. Maybe going off Lasix at Lexington really didn't do him any favors whatsoever. He has a puncher's chance in this race, and he's going to be an overlay. And I think tactical approach could prove better than these. If a Raja 1 doesn't show up, tell me that tactical approach can't win this race. I mean, he's I think the second best horse in this race. He's another one that's had a phenomenal year, and if it wasn't for Confederate, he probably would be horse of the year. That's how good he's been. So I think the play is to try to beat a Raja 1 in Maltese, use tactical approach, use It's Academic, because there's not a lot of value other places. You're going to get value in Maltese if you can beat a Raja 1 in the race, and certainly, you know, keep it on that win pool. If you can get over 5-1 and It's Academic, I think it's value. Tactical approach, I think, will be somewhere around 2-1, 5-2, somewhere around in there.
There certainly is a much more interesting race in that way, Jess, because Al Raja 1's coming in off the defeat, but we've seen what he is and what he can be. We've also seen Southwind Tyrion's been on a positive trajectory coming into this race, but then also we have these a couple of sleepers in It's Academic, who we know has been good, but then is coming in just off that qualifier. Take All Comers beating him in that qualifier, and of course the 3-year-old tactical approach qualifying. Of those qualifiers, were there any that you might actually move up a couple of points versus just what you see on the lines?
No, I would say, though, I would have liked to see Al Raja 1 into qualify just to see if he was back on his A game. There's 2 ways you can look at it, like Robert said. If he's not on his game, they wouldn't have entered him into this. But if he doesn't bounce back the way they want him to, I think he's totally beatable by a few others in here. I think tactical approach just went for a trip around the racetrack, obviously, in his qualifier. It's Academic and Take All Comers both qualified really nicely. I think those were 2 really good tighteners. Instead of Southwind Tyrion, I actually really like Rattle My Cage underneath. I think he is a horse, obviously, who hasn't won this season. He's 0 for 9, but he's always seems to be right there. I think he enjoys the Big M. I think he prefers to race there. Being back in Jersey now, I would use him underneath somehow in some of those exotics, because I think he'll offer more value than a few of those other ones. As far as punching a win bet, I have to look at this a little bit more closer before I would say anything. But you'd have to take it one of 2 ways. You either use Al Raja 1 or you completely throw him out.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine. I'm surprised, honestly, in the morning line that he is not the favorite over Southwind Tyrion, just because, I mean, sure, Southwind Tyrion won the Breeders' Crown final, but Al Raja 1 is Al Raja 1. You know, if Patrick Swayze Hanover came up the racetrack, people would probably go, "Oh my God, it's Patrick Swayze Hanover." But the Rattle My Cage is certainly amazing too, given the fact it's been 73-1 37-1, 48-1, third. John. Al Raja one? Yes, no.
I think it's, there's so many ways to think about what you're going to do with Al Raja. I think some of these guys touched on it, right? I think Robbie's right. If you're getting even 8-5 on this horse, I mean, that's value, right? I mean, if everyone thinks that this guy's a layover, like 8-5, 7-5, I think is value on a horse who we've seen take a lot of betting support. He didn't look great to me over at Hoosier in the Breeders' Crown, but I don't know. I wonder if I'm trying to think of different scenarios as to why. Was he just maybe not sound enough? Did maybe what he was wearing on his feet, did that have anything to do with the sloppy track? Did that have anything to do with his performance? I'm not sure, right? I mean, we've seen Oka, tinker with the shoes and whatnot. But again, this was a horse who was coming back from injury, missed about a year. So he didn't look great to me parading last time out. Didn't put forth a great effort. I know Garnet was talking about, you don't want to trot into a last quarter in 27, whatever. You can't go much faster. But it was still a poor effort, in my opinion, right? I know he was first up, but it wasn't a great effort. I mean, this horse is capable of, getting the win off that trip, or at least putting forth a much, much better effort. That being said, I don't know what to do with him here, though. But I do think if you like him enough at 8-5, I think that he's worth a win price. I do think that's value in there for a horse who's capable. But I do like the way Tactical Approach has been racing. I love the way he qualified, and I love the way it's academic race in the Breeders' Crown Final. I'm not really sure what to do in this race, but tell you what, 3-year-old or not, they're standing stud next year, right? I mean, this is it for a Tactical Approach. So they can afford to be aggressive with this guy the same way with Confederate in the next race. I mean, this is it for them. So it's the last start of their career. So, why not just get aggressive and hope it pans out?
Certainly multiple ways to look at keep your eye on the prize in the way of Tactical Approach, I guess, in that context. One more to talk about here. The grand finale, the coup de grace. Even though I don't want to really overthrow anything here, let's do something a little different here, kind of like a kumbaya kind of way. Let's go around the table, and let's all say where we're gonna be when Confederate reigns himself the greatest horse to ever live when winning the FanDuel Championship. We'll start with Mike to my right. Mike, where are you going to be when Confederate crowns himself as the greatest horse to come since, some may say, Jesus Christ Superstar?
Is he coming back next year? Because I'm not
coming
sure
back
that he's
next
going to win
year.
this race. So I don't know. I'm going to be at Pete Davidson Saturday night, so I don't know. That's where I'll be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear he's got a good hour 10 that he's been doing. I actually just saw Mulaney down in Savannah recently, but Pete wasn't there. Ronnie Chang was his feature. So I guess if you don't think Confederate wins, then you must be one of those by the missilites. You must be one of those guys who thinks he's the fast horse. He's the better horse. He's gonna win. I know you. I know you.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably the most logical alternative, don't you?
I mean, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say. I want to believe. I want to believe in a storybook ending for Confederate, because I mean, we don't know what he is. We also don't know what By the Missile is either. So this is if for you, Mike. Actually, I should go to the oldest person on this round table, as I now pin myself into a really weird corner as host.
No, it's pretty obvious who the oldest person is.
I didn't want to point it out, Barnsdale. I wanted to give you some leeway to perhaps be 5 years my senior. In all your life, having watched harness races and such like that, does a race like this with horses like By the Missile, Tattoo Artist, Confederate, all aligning in like this big send-off party, hallelujah, see you later kind of thing, does this rank as potentially like one of the races you'd be like most excited in your history of watching? Every race out, I'm talking Some Beach Somewhere, Niatros, Annihilator, Annihilation. I don't remember what he did to me. Would this race be a part of that American canon of harness racing?
Jeez, I don't know. But you asked me where I'm going to be. You didn't ask me where I'm going to be. I'm going to be here at my computer covering the race for Harness Link, and Confederate is going to be so good that I'm going to run out of things to say, because great horses are supposed to do great things, and I hate to agree with you, especially you, but I'm fully with you, Ray Cotolo. Great horse is supposed to do great things. There's absolutely no reason to race this horse conservatively. None. So let's see it.
I'm starting to feel optimistic and hopeful again. Mike dampened my spirits. I will say, though, just for my sake, I stand with Confederate the horse. I just want to make that very clear when I say I stand with Confederate in this race because of, I mean, just what we've seen. Robbie, come on. I know you're a sucker for Some Beach, for what he did, how much he cost, how he saved that car dealership from bankruptcy. But come on, you gotta think Confederate is, you gotta be rooting for it. You gotta be rooting for it.
I can root. I mean, listen, I'm like the poster in Fox Mulder's office. If you watch the X-Files, I want to believe. I'm like you, Ray. You said I want to believe.
I want to.
And I want to believe.
I do.
But I can't bet him in here because he's a 3-year-old against older horses, you know. And I kind of struggled with that. I really did.
Do you?
Okay. Because he is like, you know, supposed to be this unbeatable force, and he has been. I mean, he's been unbelievable. But you know, Post 9 and By the Missile's been unbelievable as of lately as well. So yeah, I'm going to side with maturity, side with the age, but I do want to believe. So maybe I'll be, you know, one of those ones where I'll be, you know, cheering for Confederate, but I don't know, maybe my handicapping principles won't let me put him on top. But I do want to believe in the story. And where I'll be, what time's that race supposed to go at?
10:30.
10:30. Okay. I've got to go to like a Santa Claus parade or something at night.
At
you know,
10:30?
No, earlier in the night. It starts at 6:30.
Sounds like bad.
So probably
Santa.
I'll be back. Drinking hot chocolate by then and probably firing on the races. But I mean, listen, I mean, what price is Confederate going to be?
Oh, that's not a question. That's not a question when it comes to this. That was never a question when Some Beach Somewhere raced in the North America Cup. Everyone was like, I gotta get my money on Some Beach. And some of them bet the horse. They didn't even cash the ticket. They're thinking in 30 years, I'm gonna sell this on eBay to someone. And
I'd buy it for more than it's worth. Yeah, I would.
It certainly, actually, I think it might be worth more then, considering how inflation's gone over the last couple of decades. But you can go be a fogey with Santa Claus up there. I'm gonna hang out with the young crew down here with Jess and John, who I absolutely know. The young people are gonna be rooting and they're gonna believe the young horse can do it. He can be right. Jess, come on. Confederate can win here.
I definitely think so. I think so. I don't think we've seen the bottom of him. I know he hasn't been contested. I know he has Post 9, but I've never seen a horse consistently. I mean, I know I'm young, so I haven't watched that many races, but I've never seen a horse consistently come from off the pace with his ability of speed to track down horses and put them away like they are standing still. And I think that is something that he has that maybe the 9 other horses don't have. I take nothing away from By the Missile. I take nothing away from Tattoo Artist. I just think that, again, he's not coming back to the races, so they're not going to be conservative with him. I think even if he does get in a spot where there is somewhere for him to take a spot in the first turn, take a bit of a breather before brushing to the front. I mean, that week in Lexington, when they tried everything to leave him out from Post 9, and he still put them away by like, what, 6 lengths was it? And he had a blemish in the week. In his training schedule and whatnot. Like, I just don't think we've ever seen something like this before.
Yeah.
I'll be in the winner's circle interviewing the connections of the open pace, which will be Confederate. So there you go, Ray.
It's nice to see that there are people who are not only believers, who also want to, stand on the right side of history, which again, the first time you can say standing with Confederate is on the right side of history. But that aside, John, I don't know how much more you have to really say, because I feel like Jess probably took every single word out of your mouth. You are just, you're yearning at just how much your heart's going to melt the moment he crosses the finish line first.
Yeah, she did. I mean, it's true though. From Post 9, right? Everyone's worried about Post 9. I mean, he drew Post 9 in Lexington. We all watched that race, didn't we? I think it was me, you, and Mike, on the stream together, and we were in awe, right? I mean, parking out that long out and going that quick, and he was able to just draw away from the field. Yeah, this is a tougher bunch, but Jess is absolutely right. I mean, Timmy's not going to get conservative with this guy, right? He was a bit more conservative with Captain Treacherous, but that was because he was racing as a 4-year-old, right? Confederate's going to be done after this year. He's going to be really aggressive with him, and I think that he's going to get the job done. I do like, though, just from as a viewer and a handicapper that he does draw the 9 hole, right? I think this makes the race a lot more interesting. I like the fact that horses like By the Missile and Tattoo Artist, who are likely the main contenders in this race as well, aside from Confederate, draw much better than he does. So I really like.
We're going to get a better price, right? We're going to get a better price from the 9 hole.
Well, that's exactly it too, right? And I'm curious to see what kind of price he is. I mean, I think if you drew inside, he'd probably be 1-5 or 1-9. But do you get 3-5 now?
1-9 against these horses? No
if
way.
he drew inside,
I don't care. Like no chance.
No, 1-5, 1-5. I think it would have been 1-5 if he drew inside.
Against By the Missile and Tattoo Artist? No way.
You say he's going to be 3-5 now?
I think it'll be 3-5.
No way.
No. I don't even think it'll be the favorite.
I don't think so either. Yeah, he's going to be. He won't be the favorite. I mean, and again, even if he is, it'll be like a marginal favorite at best. He's not going to be 3-5.
I'll love that then.
If Confederate is the favorite, then I'll know that computers do in fact have hearts. I mean, everyone knows how I stand in here. It was amazing. Confederate was still standing because he had that little cut. He scraped himself, got a little boo boo in Lexington, and Brett was like, I can't believe it. He only had 3 legs and he went 48-2. I can't believe this horse. If he had 1 leg, he'd probably still be able to go 48-2. And don't ask me how. Okay, that's not how metaphors work. I can't look at this race with an unbiased eye, and to a certain extent, I think because he's going to be probably 5-2, 3-1 potentially in this race. Why not? I don't want. If By the Missile wins at 4-5, I'm not gonna feel great cashing that ticket because he's gonna be 4-5. I don't want any part of Tattoo Artist in this race specifically. This is an interesting question though, because we've been talking. Oh yeah, where are you gonna be, John? By the way, after Confederate wins, because you didn't even touch on that. Where in the Meadowlands are you gonna be? You're gonna be at the betting window cashing your $1,000 show bet on him, or are you gonna be doing a $2,000 place bet, $5,000 win bet?
I'll be texting you guys saying that I'm right when Confederate's going off his chalk.
Who's John gonna rob before he makes these bets? I'm curious.
Yeah, exactly.
I think potentially one other piece we could touch on is do we have any other thoughts with a race like this? Because we look at this free for all pacing division, and there are certain horses that are clearly faster than others, but there also is plenty of room for horses. We've seen like Luz Pearlman breaking through onto the ticket time and time
again.
That
was my thought. Luz Pearlman, get him in the exacta.
And he's also going to be a daddy after this. He's retiring too. Let's not forget. There are a lot of.
There's nothing wrong with him in that race, and he's going to be overlaid.
Anyone else with any other closing thoughts before we dedicate the end of this show to Confederate, the horse? Any other moments? No. Last time to say your piece before we wed the couple.
Go Bills.
All right. The Bills are now married.
I got one thing left to say.
Oh,
you said go Bills. I'm saying go Blue because Saturday is a very stressful day for us Michigan people.
I couldn't tell you which University of State that is. With that then, as I out myself as a not college football guy, I have at least been Ray Cotolo, and everyone else here has been themselves. Mike Pribozie, Reid Jr., Jessica Otten, Johnny Rallis, Garnet Barnsdale. Did I mention John Rallis is the associate editor at Trot Magazine? He's the associate editor of Trot Magazine. You'll find him and Jess Otten on the live feed at the Meadowlands. You'll find Barnsdale at his computer writing for harnesslink.com saying Confederate is the greatest horse to ever live. Reid Jr. is going to be this year's Santa Claus. They finally picked him. Congratulations, Robbie. And then Mike will be getting tats with Pete Davidson. I myself, though, am just going to be doing whatever I am because I am the cigarette man. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on this roundtable discussion. My mic is still working amazingly. I'm throwing everything.
Edison probably hit the mute button.
Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, a wonderful President's Day. Don't forget Martin Luther King Day. That's a great day, too. And next time harness racing comes around the corner, see you there. Thank you for tuning in.